Less than a week ago, one of the members of the Utah School Board of Education, Christina Boggess, stepped down from her position because of corruption, and her parting words with all of us were to get our children out of the Utah government school system as soon as possible. We're going to be looking at why she said that. My name is Jackson Wayne Paul, and welcome to Latter Daily Saints.
What power shall stay the heavens from pouring down knowledge from heaven upon the heads of the latter-day saints?
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this Hump Day special, Wednesday, okay? Heading into the next half of the week, I guess. But if you're coming here for the first time, welcome. And if you thought our intro song was cool, Brandon, it's come to my attention that a lot of people don't know what that reference comes from.
Yeah, some people think it's a talk, but no, it's a scripture.
Yeah, it kind of sounds like Bruce R. McConaughey, but it actually comes from, if we want to pull up scripture notes here, in Doctrine and Covenants, section 121, in verse 33, it says, "How long can rolling waters remain impure? What power shall stay the heavens? As well might man stretch forth his puny arm to stop the Missouri River in its decreed course, or to turn it upstream, as to hinder the Almighty from pouring down knowledge from heaven upon the heads of the latter-day saints." I honestly, before Latter Day Beats, who made that intro song, sent that to us, I'll be honest, I did not know that that verse existed in the section of 121.
Yeah, and who read that again? Who was the voice of that?
So back in the day when there was only vinyl records, they made a golden record version of the Book of Mormon, and it was the narrating voice that read the Book of Mormon and all the other standard work.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, super cool. So anyways, there you go. That's where that reference comes from. And if you're coming here for the first time, we are not official representatives of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints as a whole, but we have been members our whole lives, and we take current events and things happening in the world and I guess share our Latter-day Saint perspective on such things and try to bring the scriptures in as much as possible and ultimately provide something that points you more to Jesus Christ and to further convert yourself to him and his gospel.
Hey, Jackson, what are you doing this summer? Doing anything fun?
Oh, that was really natural. July 18th, we are doing the first ever Stick of Joseph Church History Tour hosted by Mr. Dr. Michael Day. If you've watched the Stick of Joseph at all, you know that our most banger videos often include Dr. Michael Day, and he has some great insights. So July 18th, we're doing a 10-day, 9-night church history tour going everywhere from Rochester, New York, down through Nauvoo, and everywhere in between. It's going to be really insightful. Click the link in the description to get more info on how to reserve your spot. Spots are going quick. We're only doing one bus this year, and it's already filling up very quickly. So,
and isn't Mike Day doing something else kind of cool?
Yeah, so Mike Day is actually, we are hosting a lecture series during this year of Come Follow Me, Old Testament, every month on Provo Center Street. We'll link in the description of all the information to this. But once a month, we're going to be hosting a lecture on Provo Center Street with different people like Mike Day. On January 15th is going to be the first ever one where they're going to talk about a lot of important things in regard to the Old Testament to hopefully enrich your Come Follow Me study happening this year. So link in the description for that as well. Tickets are going quickly. I think we're already at half capacity for that. So go ahead and get your ticket now.
And last thing before we get into it, 52% of you are still not subscribed. If you want to be here and listen to a daily show, get notifications about it, please hit that notification bell and subscribe. All right, Jackson.
2 p.m. every single day, Latter Daily Saints. So let's get into this, Brando. When I saw this, I was like, first off, I don't have kids yet. You have two young boys. What are their ages?
My oldest is 2.5 and my youngest is 1.
Okay.
Pretty young.
Kindergarten is what, 4 years old, right?
Man, I don't remember. I think I went to kindergarten when I was like 14 or something.
Yeah, I think preschool is like 4 years old and then kindergarten's like 6.
Yeah.
Correct me in the comments. But we both don't have kids that are in school yet. And when I saw this, I was like kind of glad that I didn't have children in school. But if you didn't see this, on January 2nd, Christina Boggess tweeted out, and if you want to pull this up here, zoom in a little bit. My eyes are pretty decent, but Not that great. All right. She says, my fellow citizens of District 8 and the great state of Utah, today I declare without apology or hesitation that I will not seek re-election to the Utah State Board of Education. I am done lending my name, my vote, and my silence to a broken, corrupt, and morally bankrupt system that no longer serves the children or families of this state. Okay, starting off with a bold statement. And I think when we think of Utah, it's like, okay, it's a generally conservative, very religious state. And, that permeates through every single, government organization.
Yeah, we naively think that.
And then as we read on more, it gets even more troubling. She says, the corruption inside the Utah State Board of Education and the broader educational establishment is not subtle. It is brazen, pervasive, and rotting the soul of public education. Nearly every decision is now driven by not so hidden agendas, political cowardice, financial kickbacks, and raw personal ambition, not by what is best for the students. The Utah School Board of Education has become a closed club that wages open war on the minds, values, and innocence of our children while systematically stripping parents of any meaningful voice. This is more than mere incompetence. It is betrayal on a grand scale that's an awesome rhyme, betrayal on a grand scale by the very people you elected. She continues, layer upon layer of dysfunction mirrored and magnified in the Utah legislature has turned governance into a circus of gridlock, self-preservation, and faux theatrical outrage that accomplishes nothing. Good ideas are buried, brave voices are punished, and the status quo is protected at all costs. The chaos is not accidental, it is the design of those who profit from it. I ran for this office to fight for you, your children, your values, your right to be heard. Instead, I have been forced to watch as even the loudest conservative voices fold, trade their votes for favor and money, or abandon every promise they made on the campaign trail. The Republican Party platform means nothing inside those walls. The word of the Lord means even less. Discouraging. Wow. Your concerns about pornography in libraries, radical gender ideology in the classrooms, the erosion of academic excellence, and the assault on parental rights are mocked, ignored, or drowned out by the shrill demands of special interests and the timid silence of those who fear losing their seat more than losing their soul. Golly.
My word.
She says, I will not play this game any longer. I refuse to be a prop in their theater of fake reform. Serving the families and students of District 8 has been a great honor. You trusted me, you believed in me, and I fought with everything I have, but the weight of the corruption, the chaos, and the spiritual abuse I have witnessed has become unbearable. Walking away is not surrender. It is the only honest act left to me, and a blazing call for the reckoning this state so desperately needs. And then here she goes, her final message. My final message to every parent in Utah is blunt and urgent. Get your children out of Utah's government schools as quickly as possible. Real change is not coming. The system is not broken. It is working exactly as the corrupt intend it to work. Your children's minds, hearts, and futures are not safe inside it. With unyielding resolve and unwavering love for the families of District 8, Christina Boggess.
She's got to be a member of the church. She's got to.
At very least, a God-fearing woman that understands the importance of eternal truth, right? And so it reminds me just right off the bat of a scripture, if we want to pull up here in Mosiah chapter 4. King Benjamin, he's laying down the hammer. He is given his final parting message to his people. And in verse 14 of chapter 4, Brando, it says, and ye will not suffer your children that they should go hungry or naked, neither will ye suffer that they transgress the laws of God, and fight and quarrel one with another, and serve the devil, which is the master of sin, or which is the evil spirit, which hath been spoken of by our fathers, he being an enemy to all righteousness. But ye will teach them to walk in the ways of truth and soberness. Ye will teach them to love one another and to serve one another. So with that admonition from King Benjamin then, to teach our children in truth and soberness, what's tough is, I mean, you can be doing that in your own home, but 8 hours a day, your kids are being taught by someone else.
Yeah, we are outsourcing our children's worldview to a system that increasingly treats parents like an obstacle. And I think that's, I don't know, it makes me shudder when I read this. She just exposed the deep state of education, the bureaucracy that is, kind of controlling the narrative that's being put upon our children. It's kind of scary. Well, let me ask you, real quick, what was your, when did you go to junior high and high school?
Well,
when did you graduate?
I graduated from Brighton High School in 2017.
Okay.
So
I graduated in 2019.
Okay.
So what was your experience like in junior high and high school?
So
Elementary.
9 years ago from me, when I graduated and while I was in high school, dude, I don't remember any of this garbage, or maybe I just wasn't as sensitive to it, right? But as I think about it, honestly, I did not have to endure the things that I think are being pushed in school today. Like when I came home from my mission and my little sister was talking to me about how there are these things called furries in her middle school and that they are like petitioning to put litter boxes in in bathrooms. I'm like, this is not real.
You got to wonder if it's made up. I mean, you're hearing things like the teachers are being told they can't if a student meows, for example, and that's how they identify as a cat and they meow and that's their language, the teacher can't respond to that or get angry with that or tell them to speak English because it's discriminatory.
Yeah. And so I feel like in not so long of a time, it's kind of gone to hell in a handbasket in terms of the woke ideology that's being pushed of, gender is some social construct. It is not like it is said in the family of Proclamation of the World. And if you haven't looked on Plain and Precious Publishing, this is one of the reasons that we have published this book called The Family of Rhyming Proclamation for Kids, is because gender, as it says in the Family of Proclamation to the World, unashamedly declares that gender is an essential characteristic of our premortal, mortal, and eternal identity. I believe that is inspired, and I believe that is eternal truth. And things are being enacted in our school education system that undermine these eternal truths. And so when I read this, I'm like, okay, I'm not super spun up on how school is nowadays. I have one sister that's in high school, and I kind of asked her, and she's like, I mean, yeah, we had that furry thing in middle school, but not a ton of stuff.
Can I share one quick thing about my sister real quick? And I've heard this from other people too. In her junior high, she had a teacher whose pronouns were Z, Zim, Zer. Do you even know what that means? I don't.
Is that from like Invader Zim, that cartoon that I used to watch on Cartoon Network?
We are different generations because I have no idea what that is.
Comment below if you remember that show.
Yeah, put a W in the chat.
Yeah.
No, so it's like XE. That's how you spell it. But anyway, she had a teacher that had those pronouns, and sometimes the students would trying to be respectful. The students would call this male teacher. I believe it was a male. Zims are confusing, but call him sir. Because that's, some of these students are polite and respectful, and the teacher, would send them to the principal's office, and the principal would, scold them for that. And that's just kind of what's happening across the country. And I think the culture has shifted a little bit since last year. These things are being exposed more, but this is troublesome that we're seeing this tweet, because it sounds like even though the culture has shifted, maybe the bureaucracies and the behind the scenes people who are in charge of these things have not changed at all. So
yeah, and it's greatly troubling. And one thing that I've kind of noticed as I've looked more into like people that are on these school boards and stuff, a lot of this bull crap, this false ideology that's being pushed on our children is being enacted by people that don't have kids themselves. And I don't know, this might be a hot take, but me personally, I don't think that there should be a head of child education of a school board that doesn't themselves have skin in the game. You know what I'm
No.
saying? That may be a hot take, but
It's not a hot take.
okay. Well, yeah, I just don't think it's a good idea because ultimately they are going to think of whatever ideologies and things that they support, and they don't even really care like if it's conducive with like a healthy upbringing and stuff like that. They're going to be like, how can I get this into the school system to then indoctrinate children so there's more people that think like me?
Yeah.
Right? They don't have skin in the game of going through the process of raising a child and seeing how dangerous and how negatively impactful a lot of these ideologies are.
There are still a lot of parents out there too who support this stuff. But yeah, definitely if they don't have children, that's of the first red flag.
Yeah. Anyways. So what I did after I went and saw this tweet, I'm like, let's just see if I can find any sketchy, weird stuff happening on X or other platforms of things happening in Utah. And so if you didn't know, a little while back, there was a House Bill 77 that was passed in Utah that basically banned the use of pride flags in classrooms. Okay. I think that's a fat W. And so what then ensued was a lot of insanity, okay? And this is one teacher that the POV, it says, the caption here says, "You're a teacher in Utah navigating House Bill 77, staying within the law while making sure every student feels safe, seen, and celebrated." All right, so let's see how she remedies not using the exact pride flag, right?
And for audio listeners, there's captions on here. You're going to have to watch this. We'll put the link in the description.
Okay, so we put up not a pride flag, but a paper that says pride and has all the colors of the rainbow on it. Seems like a good loophole. I'm enough.
Life hack. School hack.
Flag displayed. Transgender. Nice. Transgender.
There's not even some inspirational quote. It just says transgender
That's awesome.
on it.
Human. Amazing. That's awesome. Human. That's a good message. See? Be kind. But the messages above, they have underlying motives.
And they kind of have the opposite effect because they are themselves inherently racist and discriminatory against other groups of people, like white people.
Yeah. No, didn't you know that it's impossible to be racist against white people?
My bad, I forgot.
Yeah, that sounds really bigoted of you.
Yeah. Fire me.
Anyway,
Army
so
hire a DEI
basically
hire.
the gist of the video is she's just going about...
Oh, there's the Salt Lake Temple right there.
Oh, and she zooms in on it. Oh my gosh. So this is at West High. This is at West High. If this is your teacher,
West High, of
and
course.
you're watching this, yeah, shout out West High. So basically, teachers that agree with this sinister ideology, and I'll say it is, telling someone that gender is not an essential characteristic of your premortal, mortal, and eternal identity, I think that is sinister. Prove me wrong in the comments. But there was such an awesome talk that was given by Russell M. Nelson back in, actually, I'll let you guess the year, okay? But he says this, okay? He gave a talk on tolerance, right? Because a lot of the things that she was posting, like be kind, that's a good message around the thing, like you are loved. There's a lot of good messages, but they have underlying things that kind of miss the mark, right?
They're euphemisms.
They're euphemisms, yeah. And so this is what Russell M. Nelson says in a talk, and I'll let you guess the year. But he says, "Now may I offer an important note of caution. An erroneous assumption could be made that if a little of something is good, a lot must be better. Not so. Overdoses of needed medication can be toxic. Boundless mercy could oppose justice. So, tolerance without limit could lead to spineless permissiveness. The Lord drew boundary lines to define acceptable limits of tolerance. Danger rises when those divine limits are disobeyed. Just as parents teach little children not to run and play in the street, the Savior taught us that we need not tolerate evil. Jesus went into the temple of God and overthrew the tables of the money changers. Though he loved the sinner, the Lord said that he cannot look upon sin with the least degree of allowance. When do you think that talk was given?
I mean, I hate to say this, but it's been a little while since we've heard some really
Based comments
in general conference. I mean, we had one from Elder Anderson a couple of times ago about abortion, which was so good. But in general, I feel like it hasn't been as straightforward and bold. And it's not a criticism against the leaders. I just want to be... So that's a long answer to me saying my guess is like early 2000s, 90s.
Yeah, no, it was in 1994.
Okay.
And I agree with you. Like, we got President Oaks that he gives some banger talks, that he speaks very boldly, very directly, very in favor of the eternal truths of things like gender identity and sexuality and stuff like that. But to hear a message like that, because what I've seen is we want to be Christ-like. Members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, they want to emulate Jesus Christ. And what's hard is nowadays, a lot of times the message is being conveyed is to be Christ-like. The number one virtue that you can display is niceness and tolerance. Which, if you read the New Testament at all, those are not the two most stark attributes of Jesus Christ that pop out of the pages, at least for me, when you read it in its entirety. Jesus never hesitates to stand on business, to stand on truth, and to do it in a way that doesn't demean the sinner, but it calls out the sin. And I think it's so important that we don't ride this spiral of silence. And it's tough because we see that tweet from this member of the Utah State Board of Education, where she's like, look, I've said my piece, but the beast is so big that my voice is drowned out, and these people no longer have an interest in supporting these eternal truths that we all know in our hearts and minds, in our bones, in our souls, because of the light of Christ that are true. And so, yeah, it's just like he said, boundless tolerance is going to lead us to a worse place. Let's continue the crash out here. Okay. Another teacher in Utah, all right? Let's see what she has to say.
Utah just officially became the very first state to ban pride flags in all government buildings, including schools. I've been a queer teacher for 16 years, and I have never had a pride flag in my classroom, ever. But I did recently just purchase a flag from the city of Cuzco, Peru. Looks good. So the state of Utah just officially became the very first state.
Nice. Super cool. Super cool. Super cool. So.
Loopholes.
Fortunately, a lot of people in Utah love loopholes. That's a conversation for a different day. But allegedly, she has found one, okay? So just another thing. You can pass legislation, but unless you root out this ideology, like it's still going to be fed to your kids in some form or fashion, right? If they don't have, and this is what we're going to talk about here, once they started rooting out, things like diversity, equity, and inclusion, they taught the same stuff, but they just used different terminology that basically means the same thing.
That was happening everywhere. It is happening. The government.
Yeah.
I mean, I know schools are part of the government, but even in, other departments of the government, they were trying to sneak around these things.
Yeah. And so right here, you're going to see actually a hidden camera conversation with some people that are involved in the education here in Utah, and kind of how they go around these different legislative things or just policies to avoid teaching these things like critical race theory and stuff like that. And so, Brandon, if you want to pull this video here.
There's like loopholes with it. People are like, how'd you pass ethnic studies in your state? I no idea. Well, taking your time one day. Yeah. The work that him and Gwen, Dr. G do, like going out, having those critical conversations, helping teacher front load some of those lessons that might be considered, like CRT or white privilege, things like that. How to name things and talk about things.
What are you going to do if they pass one of those stupid, anti-CRT laws? Even if you're not teaching it, it ends up hitting other things.
They're not going to pursue it like they would in Texas.
Really?
I really don't think so.
Okay.
Well, they've kind of gone around it because it just shows, the board state board did a definition of what is equity and what is contained in schools, and they have a whole policy on professional development around equity, and so professional development, and so there's loopholes with it that it just goes back to the LEA for equity and for things. And so whenever our team goes out, we don't do an opt-out prior to. They just go out, meet the kids, work with them. We operate like a math department. And then we give a letter after they go out saying, we were in your school, and this is what they talked about. Culture diversity specialists go out and they talk to students about what is diversity, what is microaggressions, especially at the middle school level, and have those conversations. Oh, yeah. So even with the national pushback of the craziness, our board was supportive and our superintendent continually supportive.
We hear a lot about social and emotional learning, SEL, which is often, but not always, a Trojan horse to push the principles of critical race theory.
We have an SEL curriculum in every school, and that is state expectation. But from the legislature, you guys, even with that woke curriculum, so I came up with an alternate curriculum for that child. It is still an SEL curriculum. Right? And it's like, so how about your child do this and this and this during that time? That sounds fantastic. Usually, well, of course it's not, but it's for this, it meets the same objectives.
Okay.
Meets the same objectives, which is to indoctrinate your child against eternal truths.
Wow.
God.
Wow. I mean, this is crazy. This is happening on an elementary level for kids who are very, very absorbent to these kinds of things.
Spongy.
And so, when these identity-loaded narratives, critical race theory, things like that, especially ones that separate the world into categories of oppressor and oppressed, or treat a child's inner confusion, who may be having some inner confusion, who knows, as a defining label. They are planting seeds in soil that can't really defend itself.
Yes, because remember, the objective is to get rid of racism, right? That's their objective, right? So in order to accomplish that objective, as a young kid, they're going to tell you that you have white privilege and there's nothing you can do about it because you were born essentially a racist.
Yeah,
is the overarching message of what they're teaching.
Well, let me ask you something real quick. When you were going through school, like we were talking about earlier, when there were children of other races, did you even really notice, or were they just like another kid to you?
Dude, a little kid, you see little kids play with one another, and it's like they don't care. These are not inherent behaviors or thoughts. These are forced upon children, and it's like. Yeah, so that's not like a natural thing that happens. It's just like kids play with kids.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But I'll tell you right now that now after all this stuff has blown up and become such a big part of our culture, so divisive, and now it's being pushed so hard and talked about so much, I do take notice of people who are of other races. I don't think anything negative or prejudice about those races, but I do notice, and I think that's the starting point for us to have divisiveness and differences. And, it can be a good thing to talk about each other with your different cultures and stuff like that. But I just love the innocence of children who just don't even notice that at all. And now it's being pushed upon them to be at the front of their mind.
Yes. And it's promoting this thing that has been talked about on this show multiple different times. If you put any single identifier, whatever it may be, above that of being a child of God and a disciple of Jesus Christ, you're going to miss the mark. Even if you put your skin color, I am a white child of God. I'm a black child of God. I am XYZ. I'm whatever it is. you're going to then have that be your first filter in processing any of your thoughts or actions, instead of just keeping what is most important, the most important identifier in first place, and that is being a child of God, being a disciple of Jesus Christ, a child of the covenant.
And if your children are in school longer than they're at home, what mindset do you think they're going to adopt first? The secular label or the godly label that you're trying to teach them as a parent?
Yeah.
They're developing and they're in school for longer than they're at home.
Yeah. So anyways, those were the biggest things that I saw happening right here in Utah, at least that I could find on the internet. But, one thing that I'll just share here is, you think maybe it's just on the lower level of these rogue teachers that are, going about finding different loopholes to still poison your children with these ideologies. But from the top of the leadership here in Utah, the mindset is that of promoting false ideologies. Okay?
Self-proclaimed Republican Governor Cox.
I don't care what he self-proclaims as. Watch this.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I am Governor Spencer Cox, and I have the pleasure today of hosting the first One Utah Student Town Hall. And my preferred pronouns are he, him, and his. So thank you for sharing yours with me. And my preferred pronouns are he, him, and his.
My preferred pronouns are he, him, and his.
And my preferred pronouns are he, him, and his. So thank you for sharing yours with me.
I believe in helping young leaders learn and grow by listening to them and providing platforms to share their voices. Leading with equity and inclusion starts at a young age, and the students that are joining us today have shown great leadership through their academic achievements and civil and civic participation in our state.
So just like I read from Elder Nelson at the time, his talk, President Nelson, it's this message that is shrouded in love and compassion. Like, it looks like it's a message of love and compassion, but in it is denial of eternal truth. You know what I'm saying? Is false ideologies.
It's a Trojan horse.
Yeah, it's a Trojan horse. It's a Trojan horse, which, if any of you don't know what an actual Trojan horse is, it's this Roman tactic of war where they had this massive horse that they would lead into battle, and in it there was a bunch of different soldiers that then would run out.
They were gifting it to the opposing. Oh man, I didn't get educated in my school about the history. I was educated on gender ideology. No, just kidding. But yeah, they were gifted. It was supposed to be a gift, but
yes,
inside it was secret.
It had soldiers that went and killed them. But anyways, so there we go. It's kind of up at the top too. And so, which it's really interesting because he voted against having gender transition surgeries for minors, but then voted for having transgender people in sports, basically men in girls sports and girls in men's sports. So make up your mind, bro. Going back to the original tweet from Christina, these people want votes and money and power. The scriptures are full of what happens when leaders become corrupt. They just want power. They just want money. And they don't care. Dude, this is, and I know I'm rambling a little bit, but in Lehi's vision, right, it describes the great and spacious building as floating above the air. Have you noticed that?
Wait, say that one more time.
So in Lehi's vision in 1 Nephi 8.
Oh, the building's floating above the air.
Floating above the air.
Yes. What's the significance of that?
Forever, I was like, that's kind of a weird little caveat to add to it. But it's because, and this is one of my interpretations of it, is because the people in the great and spacious building are not founded in anything. They are not built upon any rock. So whatever thing is popular, that floating building is going to go float over whatever the popular ideology is of that day. The next day it's over here. They are rooted and founded in nothing. Their foundation is not firm. And so if they're going to get votes and money over here, okay, I'll bend the knee a little bit and I'll start adopting that ideology. Oh, going to get votes and money over here. And so they don't stand on principle. They don't stand on business. And they're not interested in being someone like Captain Moroni that fights for his family, his freedom, his religion, things of a noble cause. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. And there's data to prove what you just said. Pew Research did a study, and I will make sure to link it in the description, writing it down, timestamp this link in the description, of a Pew Research study asking teachers about how often certain topics come up in their classroom or what they think parents should be able to opt out of if they want. And a stat that was really staggering to me is that when asked if parents should be able to opt their children out of learning about certain topics if the way they are taught conflicts with parents' personal views or belief, 48% of teachers say yes when it comes to sexual orientation or gender identity, which means that 52% of teachers, am I getting that right? Yeah, 52% of teachers believe that parents should not be able to opt their children out of these classes. 25% say yes when it comes to topics related to racism or racial inequality. So it's just interesting to see this data and see that more than half of the teachers in this country are really set on putting this in your children's minds, planting these seeds of being oppressed or being the oppressor, especially if you're a straight white male.
Yeah. Interesting. I'm so pumped to read this comment section. I think it's going to be fired up, and I'm excited to have some dialogue with a lot of you. So going off of that opting out thing, we have 3 videos that display some of this madness happening, not in Utah, but in the United States. And this was a Zoom call from teachers to parents talking about the curriculum that's going to be taught to their children and the content that they could opt out for and not opt out for. So this is in California. Watch this.
Be happening. While we're talking about opting out, I just want to make one point of clarification, which is that parents have the right to opt out of content, but not people. So there is a lesson on identities that covers gender identity and sexual orientation. This lesson cannot be opted out of just on its own. And that is because in California, people who are on the LGBTQ plus spectrum of identities are considered a protected group. And so opting out of only that lesson would be considered discrimination.
Of course.
I do also want to note that the entire curriculum is designed to be inclusive of people of all identities and all backgrounds. So if a parent did not want their student to receive any information on this topic, it would be best to opt out of the curriculum entirely.
Wait, keep it rolling.
So a few more.
Just like one other thing that's really important
is that it must be age appropriate, which is designed by cognitive ability, be medically accurate. So this curriculum has been reviewed by a team of medical experts. Encourage communication with parents and trusted adults, and not teach or promote any religious doctrine.
Pause. Okay, so you see there that you either let your child learn all of this stuff or none of it, and there may be some good, valuable things inside there, but it's going to be including a lot of things that are false. You cannot opt out of all the gender identity stuff because then you would be discriminatory. You would be a bigot, discriminating, having your child not be indoctrinated in that stuff. Shame on you. Shame on you. And then what does it say at the end? It doesn't promote any religious doctrine. Doesn't promote any religious doctrine. Because heaven forbid these children would learn things of an eternal truth, right? Heaven forbid that they learn anything of actual value, right? But here's the funny thing. This in itself, this ideology is a religion. It is a godless religion. Their God is not the one true living God, but it is whatever. Their God is created in their own image. okay? They don't see themselves as created in the image of God, but that their God is created in their own image, okay? And it's just so interesting because they're like, yeah, we're not promoting any religious doctrines or ideologies here. So rest assured, none of that will be forced on your kids, but we're going to teach them all about how they can, chop their genitalia off if they don't feel comfortable in their own bodies.
And they're using euphemisms. They're using words like inclusivity and belonging and things like that to cover up for the fact
safe and comfortable,
which is a tactic by Satan called counterfeiting. Maybe you should talk a little bit about the Antichrist Playbook really quick. Give a plug for that because this talks about this. And I think parents who are watching this are going to be concerned for their youth, or parents who have prospective children going into public education. So yeah, talk about it.
Yeah, look, this whole show isn't just a ploy to promote awesome books that we've published.
No, that actually was completely spontaneous.
But it just so happens that we only publish awesome-based books, okay? So this one is more for like little kids to teach them the truths that are found in the family of proclamation of the world in a fun, cute rhyming pattern with great illustration. This one, the Antichrist Playbook, I know it looks a little ominous, but the subheading is A Guide for Young Saints to Avoid Deception and Defeat the Devil. Is written by Jeffrey Borders, and it just goes through the Book of Mormon and the different antichrists like Korihor, Nehor, and a lot of others, and shows the different tactics that they use, and then examples of how those same tactics are used on your children, on all of us, but especially your children today. And so it's kind of geared towards youth and young adults, but it's so important that kids are able to discern between truth and error, and they cannot do that unless we follow the admonition of King Benjamin in his sermon, saying to teach them in truth and soberness. Okay, so good mention there. The Antichrist Playbook, it's awesome.
And there's a chapter. There's a chapter about counterfeits specifically, like living your truth is a euphemism, a counterfeit, for example. And I think we did a video on Stick of Joseph with Jeffrey Borders, the author, about counterfeit, that chapter about counterfeit specifically. So I will link that in the description as well. But yeah.
So if you want to go to the link in the description, Plain Precious Publishing, get those, and help your kids learn some good things. But we'll just go through, I think, maybe one more video here because I'm crashing out a little bit too much. Oh, okay. Yeah, this will be the climax, okay? Allegedly in Washington, I believe, this is a video that was made to teach fifth graders about this gender ideology, okay? And gender identities. Let's go ahead and hit play here.
Aww. Hi, baby. Are you a boy or a girl?
Funny you should ask, Sid. One of the first things they check when a new baby is born is what kind of body parts they have. They do that to determine a baby's sex. Most of the time, it's easy to determine, and sometimes it's more complicated.
This one has a penis. It's a boy. This one has a vulva. It's a girl.
Trigger warning.
Congratulations.
Whoa. Let's hit the brakes, people. The way your body looks on the outside is only part of the story.
What?
Stay with me, gang. This is important. Hi, little one. Your sex refers to your physical body parts, remember? But there is also something called gender, which is how you feel inside your body and who you know yourself to be. And your gender, how you feel on the inside, doesn't always match the sex you were called when you were born.
Okay.
Let's say you were born with a penis and you feel like a boy inside. In that case, your sex and your gender match.
Well, what if you were born with a penis and you know you're a girl inside, not a boy?
Then your sex and your gender don't match.
Wait, what does know you're a girl inside mean anyway? Does that mean you have to love pink things and princesses?
Nope. Sometimes people refer to things as girl things and boy things, but this is just how people sometimes classify things, usually to make it easier to sell stuff to kids and their parents. Clothes, toys, and games are for everyone. You don't have to be a boy or a girl to like a certain thing. Sid, has anyone ever told you that you shouldn't play with something or wear something because you're a boy?
Well, yes.
The body parts you were born with don't always dictate who you are, how you feel, or what you like to play with.
Ah, that's such a relief.
Gender, how you feel and who you know yourself to be, tells you who you are, and there are a whole bunch of possibilities. Figuring out what feels right for you is just part of growing up. Bye, little cutie. You might want to change that diaper sooner than later.
That was the longest 2 minutes of my life.
Day. I was happy.
Yeah,
I was smiling when I came in here.
Don't come in when we're recording anymore, all right?
Yeah.
So,
longest 2 minutes of my life.
Oh, there's just so much that could be said about it, but let me know your thoughts in the comments on that one. Absurd.
Jackson, I know this is going on long. This is super important, okay? This is so widespread. This is scratching the surface of what is being shown in school, in children's libraries. There are books. We've talked about it. Just be careful. And I just want to ask you one last thing. The statement that Christina Boggess made about keep your children out of the public education system. What do you have to say to that? And if you're comfortable sharing, what do you feel like you're personally going to do? Because I don't want to come off as fear-mongering or anything like that.
I know, bro. Because look, she's seeing behind the curtain there. She's seeing how the sausage is being made, okay? She's been on the school...
That was a terrible...
okay.
Metaphor.
It's a metaphor, okay? Don't be weird about it. All right? So what am I just going to be like, no, whatever, you're lying. It's like, no, I'm inclined to listen to what she has to say and believe what she has to say. I don't know. I guess my wife and I, when we have children that age, we're just going to have to figure out, are we going to do homeschool? Are we going to do a homeschool co-op? Private schools, are they even safe nowadays? Who knows? American Heritage? Do I got to go make $1 million so I can send my kids to American Heritage? We'll see. Maybe they can get a scholarship or something. Hopefully I have genius children, but I don't know. Here's what I suggest you do. Get in the scriptures, teach your kids eternal truths, and pray to God what you should do and where you should put your kids.
And then their identity is not handed to them by a bureaucracy. It's handed to them by God.
So, I mean, unfortunately, extremely unfortunately, we could watch dozens of more videos of things like this, of examples of the awful things that are being pushed on your kids in schools. But I think I've got my crash out for the day. Brandon, are you all crashed out? Are you good?
I am
raging
a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll just cut it there. But like I said, I'm excited to see this comment section because I think that there is a lot to be talked about here. I'd like to hear your personal anecdotes. What have your children come home and either said to you about what they're getting taught or different anecdotes that you have about things like this pervasive ideology that's being pushed on children that is false. Again, visit Plain and Precious Publishing for some good books that'll help your kids be rooted in truth. And all of these books that we publish point you to the scriptures. And subsequently to the light of the world, Jesus Christ. May God have mercy on us all. And shout out to you, Christina Boggess, but dang, where do we go from here?
The second coming, honestly.
Well, before then, let's get on our knees and pray to God and see what we should do for our families. Because, yeah, I think it's really easy to be like, whatever, like, we'll just put them in, public school, and then after school, I'll correct their wrong teaching. I don't know if that's the way to go, but maybe. Anyways, like always, thanks for coming. And remember, if you're not looking at the world through a gospel lens, you're only getting half the story. God bless you.